What is going on, everybody? Nasdorachi coming back at you again today with another episode for Dragon Ball Legends. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is a topic that generally people like to hear about. We are going to be doing the final tier list of characters for Dragon Ball Legends for 2019. This will be the last time that I'm going to orchestrate one of these for this year, so it'll be like Dragon Ball Legends, a year in review, or a culmination of where this year has landed us now at this point in time in the game. So again, figured it was a great time to get this done, especially since we've just seen some brand new powerhouse units hit the game across the past two banners, and a lot of the other more recent powerful units have been revisited on other banners in between there. So again, the meta for the game is extremely healthy right now, and things in terms of the characters and the overall game itself seem to be on the up and up. Now, I'm not going to review the entire game for the year. We're just going to stick to the characters themselves. So I do want to give a couple of shout outs, of course, to Perfect Slanak, or Rus, for helping me out. He always gives me behind the scenes help for crafting the tier lists themselves, and I will give him the credit for the tier list itself. And then of course, Devil Takoyaki, or Thon on Twitter, he crafted the image itself. It takes some of the workload off of my hands, so I can graphically engineer other pictures and other art and just do other work in general. So I appreciate him a lot as well. Now, he does the game pressed art for their tier lists as well, so if you think that they look similar, that would be why, you guys. Now, of course, happy holidays to everyone in the audience who is someone who celebrates those types of things, and of course, I think that's about it for the introduction here. We can jump right into the material itself. Now, remember, before I hop in here, that a lot of this information is relatively subjective, and of course, things do tend to change frequently. As well, with the Super Saiyan 4s and Baby having just recently joined the game, their positions are kind of tentatively placed. They're very extreme, but they're very tentatively placed, and of course, just remember, you guys, that all this stuff could change, again, on a whim. Just at the arrival of any new banner, things could change. So if you don't agree with some of the placements, you know, just don't hold it against me. Things can always change. Again, I've said that too many times now. But another thing you need to know before we bring up the image itself is that the tier list itself is not only based around individual units and how good their kit is, but also the relevance of any teams they may be on, and you know, how effective those teams are in the overall PvP meta for the game. So there's more going on when you see a character placed and people are like, oh, I don't think that character's the best. There's just other things going on behind the scenes as well as to why they may be placed there. So again, keep that in mind, and we will bring up the image here. So again, this will be the final tier list for the end of December 2019. Of course, again, credit to Rus Slanak. And yeah, we'll zoom into it here, you guys, so that you can see it and we'll review it. But I'll also have posted it in the Facebook group and in Twitter, or on my Twitter as well. So again, some of the placements might seem kind of wild. I don't think there have been too many adjustments to the bottom of the list. And of course, there may even be some things that I disagree with. So don't just look at this and be like, you know, yelling at me, because we're going to go over it here, and some things that I think may be different will be added to the list itself here. So, zooming in here and checking out the top of the top, the Z category here, the best characters in the game, we'll see the brand new Super Saiyan 4 Goku sitting in the #1 spot, you guys. A spot that used to be held by Vegito, that used to be held by, I believe, a couple other characters like the blue LF Namek Goku. But again, things do tend to shift around a lot. Now, I do believe that those other characters have moved down the list a little bit just because of the Battle System 2.1 changes, as well as their teams being a little bit less up to date and a little bit less fleshed out than some of the more current options. Now again, focusing on Super Saiyan 4 Goku here, he does have a very, very well balanced kit. Very, very high strike damage and good associated buffs to his damage. A very deadly blue card that enacts the 3-second lock-in, but it's ranged, unlike the blue Gogeta, who takes more time to kind of set that up and get the enemy so that they can't vanish it. Goku can fire his off a little bit quicker, and it does a considerable amount of damage. Maybe not as much as the fully buffed up Blue Gogeta, but then of course the color situations always have to be considered as well. So again, extremely offensive kit. Relatively good green card. It gives him a nice buff and removes any attribute downgrades that he may be dealing with. So anything that Rose might be throwing out, like Rose or Super Boo or the yellow GT Vegeta, any of their debuffs that they're throwing out should be pretty easy to deal with when you're dealing with this Goku here. Very, very powerful ultimate arts technique as well, and good defensive options, good self-key restore. He's just got an extremely, again, well fleshed out kit, you guys. And the GT team is extremely good. It's hyper offensive right now. They don't have too many defensive options or ways to deal with Rising Rush. They don't have too many cover change options overall. But the GT team is still kind of in its infancy, guys. And we will be expecting very, very powerful characters to join their ranks as well. So for right now, between a mixture of him being functional on Son family, he does replace the purple Goten on Son family and ups the effectiveness of that team a little bit. Now, Goten is still extremely good, but Goten is extremely linear and based around blast damage and using his ult. Again, he does those things extremely well, but Goku is just kind of a more well-rounded character and as well is capable of extremely high damage numbers also. So again, he fits in quite nicely to Son team, arguably even maybe a little bit better than the GT team right now, just because GT team does not afford you the opportunity to make very many mistakes. Otherwise, you will get punished using the GT team. But outside of that, this character by himself is extremely powerful, and his relevance across multiple good teams, just everything together, gives him this #1 spot for now, you guys. And again, I can pretty much agree with that. However, there are other characters that are right there in these 2 and 3 spots, #4 maybe, that are also really good contenders, and again, have hyper useful teams also. So moving to #2 here, we do have the yellow Gohan. Now this character versus any type of character that isn't red is extremely deadly. Even versus red characters, if he saves his Rising Rush, he can deal with them by locking them in and Rising Rushing them pretty effectively. His ability to be just hyper defensive in Super Saiyan 1 form and to be able to start stacking offensive buffs by taking damage and then heal when he uses his main, lock in, execute an extremely high damage combo, then main ability after 5 seconds to get a guaranteed high damage combo finishing move with his blue card that also lowers the enemy ki. So not only do you get health, almost guaranteed combo, guaranteed blue card to finish it out with, you steal the enemy's ki, you have them locked in, but he also has an absurdly abusable green card, which just guarantees combo start for him and guarantees him an exit from opportunities where he might otherwise have been baited and taken advantage of. So his green card then as well restores his ki and adds to his damage yet again. Just again, with a light switch, this character changes from defense to offense and assassination mode. So a skilled player as well will be using him in ways that don't compromise him to the dangers of his color disadvantage matchups. So again, just very, very deadly, very dangerous, a very obnoxious character to deal with, who's very easy to play as well. Even players that are less experienced can have a lot of success using this Gohan, and that definitely earns him status right now as one of the best characters in the game, you guys. Just his kit is absurd. He fits on the movies team as well, with his synergy with Bojack, being able to have Bojack's cover change to cover for any mistakes you make, and then this Gohan with the lock-in is just one of the most absurd combinations of characters in the game we have available right now, and again, earns him this top tier status right here. He's also functional on hybrids-based teams or Son family teams, so extreme good versatility to his ability to fit across multiple different teams also. Even yellow, yellow, blue, so the color archetype he'll fit into very well also. Extremely good character. Next up, the LF Super Saiyan God Blue Vegeta. He is also very, very new, extremely effective character. Very high stats, ability to get card draw speed +2 out of his kit and just stack, again, just absurd damage buffs and reducing the cover swap, the timers on your teammates while comboing, and one of the most powerful ultimate arts techniques in the game. A really good heal on his green card, which also buffs multiple damage types for his ultimate and blue card as well, I believe. And when you combo that with Whis, it's very, very spammable. Very, very good defenses on this guy. Best green unit in the game. Asterix, we don't have anyone that I know of that's gotten Beerus to not only Zenkai level 7, but also unlocked all of the spirit boost panels to go along with him. So that Beerus might be changing positions again very soon, you guys. Again, I know people that have gotten him to Zenkai 7. The soul boosting is not something that I've seen completely finished yet. So that is still to be determined. But for now, this Vegeta is most definitely the best green unit in the game. Fits on God Key team, which has extremely well-rounded buffs and bench synergy. And he is, again, other than Beerus, which is a separate build within the same team archetype, other than that, he's the best green unit option. Now, if you run Whis and Beerus and have the Beerus Zenkai, relatively high with the soul boost panels, you can successfully run that as well, and it'll be extremely competitive. But it's just crazy that this team has those two separate options to fill that same role right there. But again, this Vegeta right now is definitely in the #1 spot. One of the best characters in the game for just his ridiculously absurd combination of offensive and self-healing capabilities, self-buffing, and just comboing out the butthole. Amazing character, you guys. Next up, the Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, who just falls a little bit further down the list comparatively speaking to Goku, only I think because the Goku does have that more well-rounded functionality. The Vegeta is much more hyper-specifically based around doing blast damage. Now, he can do extremely good damage with his blue card. His red cards do okay, especially when you combo him with the Goku. They both have those cards that have the potential chance to boost their damage outputs, and they share those, so that's quite nice as well. But the Vegeta also cannot heal, and he doesn't have any way to boost his defenses. So again, he's much more hyper-focused around being just an offensive role. He does it, again, extremely well, but it's just a little bit of less versatility in his kit makes him fall just a couple of notches down the peg. As well, there'll be a lot of very powerful blue characters that you do have to contend with, and this could be said with the Goku and the Baby also. None of these three brand new characters have very good options for dealing with color counter situations. Most of them just don't have the tools to deal with that, and you do have to play around that, and they usually will end up getting decimated, again, unless you have Rising Rush available to you. So you do have to keep that in mind. Other characters in the game come with ways and tools to get around that, but no one on the GT team really has that option right now, and that goes for those characters even if you're running them on different teams. None of this recent banner has any types of tools to deal with that. But again, Vegeta, hyper successful when it comes to dealing damage. You do have to protect him a little bit because he is kind of a glass cannon, and he does fit on the Vegeta family as well, but Vegeta family is still a little bit behind when compared to the Son family team, for example, which again is why he's just a couple notches down the list as compared to the Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Again, remember, all these things can change over time as new things develop and as these characters get tested a little bit more. The Goku that's coming up next, another Goku, Super Saiyan God Blue Goku, the one we've had since the anniversary banners. Now he is on air because for the first X amount of time while his defensive buff is active in the game, he is pretty much unkillable. And, that might be less so if you don't have him above 7 stars, but once you start getting red stars on this guy right here, his early game defensiveness is almost unmatched. Like, he really just doesn't take almost any damage at all, and a lot of it that he does take, he can just heal out of with green cards. So, kind of like the Vegeta in that regard, although his green card is a little bit less effective than the LF Vegetas. However, just again, defensive stats out the booty hole, kind of similar to the yellow Gohan. He does switch to a more offensive role, like early, midway throughout the fight. Unlike the Gohan, you can't control it. It's not on his main. It's just a passive that kind of triggers, and you do have to be mindful of that, but he does do extremely good damage, and again, for his defensive qualities and healing qualities early in the match, he is very, very powerful. Now, he does also have a main ability that gives him not only the ultimate arts technique, but an immediate vanish restore, so he can use that and exploit the usage of that to leave the enemy with no options whatsoever, and then you can either choose to use the ultimate arts technique or a rising rush, for example, if you have that as well. So he's a very powerful, very defensive, very exploitable character with a really powerful kit. Again, on God Key right now, he is a very staple character that you will see usually in the point position. He does lead fights because of that defensive buff, so you'll see him often in the #1 spot unless someone anticipates you bringing green and maybe tries to counterpick a different team setup. But again, normally I'll still, in that situation, even lead with the blue Goku. He's a great point character. Next up, LF Vegito. We really don't have to spend much time at all on this Vegito. He hasn't actually gotten any worse, comparatively speaking, to any of these characters. He's still extremely effective, extremely good. It's just the Fusions team has not been getting consistently updated as per some of these other teams we've seen more recently. Obviously, that will change when we get to other characters like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and Fusion Zamasu and Vegito Blue and Gogeta Blue eventually, one day. There's other Fusions characters as well that'll probably join the ranks. But again, for now, the team still is kind of lacking in terms of new characters. The ones they do have, again, still extremely effective, and Vegito does have one of the best kits in the game in terms of a single unit. Just the way that his buffs work, his healing, his deletion of your opponent's buffs. Just, again, a very powerful ultimate arts technique. We don't have to spend too much time on it. It's pretty well known, but he is one of the best characters in the game, and it's really just the kind of aging of his team that's making him fall down a little bit, and with some other characters that are very powerful on newer and more relevant teams are just kind of taking some spots ahead of him. Now, it does deserve to be mentioned, even though the Battle Royal is over, the Fusions team was one of the 2 or 3 best teams that you could use for the Legends Battle Royal mode because of the overall overwhelming Z synergy the team has. So that is to be noted also, and if it comes around again, maybe things will change, maybe not. I don't know, it depends how long it is till we see that devil of a mode again. Next up, the LF Blue Namek Goku. Another character we don't have to spend too much time discussing, just hyper powerful kit. When he's transformed and the last man standing on your team, he can just delete an entire enemy team and spam the ability to use his counter attack. Even though Battle System 2.1 has removed some of his effectiveness with playing passively and backfloating and just being able to counter as oppressively, he can still do it pretty similarly the same way as before. Now, there are ways to kind of get around that with the buff tackle and some other stuff, but they can counterplay that as well with the use of the new red card, which has tackle armor on it, essentially. So, it is a very difficult character to deal with, who is, again, probably the owner of the best blue card in the game, with the counter and the absurd amount of damage it does, and just one of the best characters in the game, especially when it comes to last man standing. Again, he's fallen a little bit because of the 2.1 nerfs. Those did affect him a little bit. And again, because the Son family team itself is not quite as effective as movies, as, God Key, as Lineage of Evil. Even though there's no Lineage of Evil characters in this top row, their team synergy is extremely powerful. And, even some other characters. So, that is why he's fallen a little bit. But again, he's still top tier status. Very, very good character. One of the best kits in the game, again, and best blue card in the game. Next up, Baby. We do have another one of the new characters, all 3 of them taking the top row. Baby, though, actually is probably the best actual support unit in the game. And I don't consider leader units like Final Form Cooler or the Super Saiyan Bardock, I don't really consider them to be support units because the leader role, that kind of buff, is a different type of thing. But in terms of hard support, this Baby, with his healing buff on his main ability, 50% to all healing of all your teammates, and the healing of their abilities that they do to themselves as well, and just his damage, reduction that he gets on his main. Just a very, very good supporting character. Now, he fits almost better on regeneration as he does on the GT team right now, but he does fit extremely well again on both of those teams. And again, damage that he gives upon swapping, the healing buff, really one of the most major things. Like, if you think about it, almost every character on the regeneration team has some type of heal. You'd have Cell that heals over time, EX Nail healing the whole team with his green card. You have the Buhan that heals on his shield, the Kid Buu that heals when he combos. You have the red the red Zamasu and the green Piccolo, who both have the heal on their main. Same thing with the Fat Buu. The only two characters on regen, even the EX red Super Buu heals. The purple Super Buu doesn't heal, and the EX Evil Buu doesn't heal, and Slug. Those are the only three characters on regen that don't have any self-healing built into themselves. Every other member of regeneration that's relevant has some type of heal. So even Metal Cooler, he's regeneration too, and he's got a heal. So this healing passive, this support with this effectiveness here is extremely good for that team. Extremely good for GT as well, because Goku does have the heal also, and Super 17 heals when he uses his green card and absorbs any type of energy. So it is not as effective on GT as regen, but it is, again, one of the best supporting abilities we've seen in the game to date, and it has huge impacts on gameplay. Like, the health restoration you get becomes literally absurd using him. So if you haven't tried using him for that, you guys, I definitely recommend that you do. And then, of course, his green card's awesome. It buffs his own damage, and it combos, gives him ki, and yeah, he doesn't, his blue card is okay. He doesn't have an ultimate arts, but mainly for his passives and his supporting healing ability on his main. That's why he's doing so well on the chart right now, you guys. Moving down to the next category here, S+, we can start to get to some of these a little bit quicker since they're not in the top row here. But again, extremely effective characters that are, just very slightly below the row that's above them. There's just, not much of a difference between S+ and Z, just very, very small. Rosé leading the pack, extremely good damage dealing unit. He's got a very effective main ability that negates his color disadvantage situations, which that's one of the best abilities in the game, along with like cheesy stuff like lock-ins and things on that really, really high tier of exploitable and beneficial passives that you get from moves. But yeah, just that one right there, mixed with his really high damage dealing capabilities, and possibly the most important is the debuffs that he gives the enemy. The damage that they will take from all God Key characters, that debuff that he throws out is extremely effective. It's one of the reasons, again, why the Super Saiyan 4s are so good and so high on the list, because both of their green cards counter that debuff, or any other debuffs really. So that has elevated them a little bit and their teams, and kind of hurt Rosé a little bit and maybe lowered him down out of the Z tier, because there are a lot of characters coming out recently that do negate those debuffs. So that's important to note, you guys. But mixed with, again, those debuffs, his powerful synergy on God Key or Future team, I don't think is as strong as God Key, but if you don't have as many options like the LF Vegeta or the EX Whis or stuff like good God Key characters, then you can run him on Future also. And again, extremely good damage dealing numbers. He can take hits pretty well, not from blue, unless his main ability is active, but it's very, very good all around character that fits on a really good team. Just, again, struggles a little bit with Ki Restore. His Ki Restore is not the best. He does have some passives that help him counter that, but that's probably the most negative thing about him, is his Ki Restore being relatively slow. Next up, we have the Transforming Trunks, who's elevated his position on the list so much because Battle System 2.1 changed the way that slice damage works. Now, I believe it does ignore a certain percentage of defense and just pierces right through that. I don't think that was effective or as powerful as they've made it now in 2.1. So he just deals an absurd amount of damage, and the way that he combos with his teams on Vegeta Family, or on Future, or on Hybrids, make him an extremely versatile character as well. His main ability basically refills his entire hand, gives him extra ki, allows him to extend combos really, really well, and I don't know, you guys, a very, very powerful character that got a huge buff because of that change to the slice damage. Next up, we have the Transforming Vegeta, who functions very best on the movies team, but can also function, again, very highly on Vegeta Family. That's what his Z ability is actually meant for, and that team is starting to come together. So, again, between the blue Vegeta, the red Vegeta Super Saiyan 4, the Trunks that we just talked about, the LF Vegeta, you have pretty much almost a full color wheel now at this point of really powerful characters. Their Z ability does lack overall some defense, though, you guys. Their team is not hyper defensive. The LF Vegeta probably one of the most defensive characters, unless you're still using maybe the old red Super Saiyan Vegeta, but it's not the best option now, especially with the Super Saiyan 4 out. But back to the blue Vegeta, extremely effective character. Always has blast armor on his red cards, extremely high damage on his blue card. He heals when he uses it as well. His transformation gives him really good stats. His green card helps with his strike damage based kit by giving him more strike damage and turning all his yellow cards into red cards. And again, overall, it's a very effective character. I think every time he uses a strike card, he also lowers the cost of his blue, making it easier for you to spam out a whole bunch of red cards and then still be able to launch your special moves. So again, really because of that blast armor, that really adds a lot of effectiveness to his kit, and effectiveness on movies, as well as a good functioning high tier blue unit, gives him a really high tier on the list here also. Next up, Beerus, who has elevated up the tier list quite a lot since he first came out, you guys. Quite a lot indeed. Now that the Zenkai system has come out, we still don't know the full effectiveness of that fully fleshed out Zenkai system, but that, in addition with his new LF, his synergy with Whis on the God Ki team and other extremely powerful God Ki characters, makes him definitely a top contender, you guys. It's almost a character that I think we might have to revisit again soon, because I think his value might be even higher once he's fully soul boosted. But just very, very powerful character. They changed his locking a little bit, made it a little bit more effective to use more frequently, and that's locking out the main ability usage of the enemy you're fighting against. And again, just very effective character once you've made some pretty heavy investments into him to get him, Zenkai'd up. Next up, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku, extremely effective yellow unit for your God Ki teams. Much better than the Super Saiyan God Vegeta. This character is capable of doing obscene amounts of damage after he transforms, and his ability to quickly and easily repeat his green card blue card combo, which does a reasonably large amount of damage and deletes all of your opponent's cards out of their hand. Just very, very good character, you guys. Very easy to combo with him to restore his own ki, to do large amounts of damage. His transformation generally lasts for most, if not all, of the duration of the fight, especially because you can just swap him out and keep it active for longer by saving him for priority situations where you want to bring him out. So just very easy to exploit this character and make lots of damage, you guys. And again, God Ki team, very effective right now. Also, one of the best teams to use in the Legends Battle Royal when that's a thing. So just keep that in mind, you guys. And this yellow unit, really strong, you guys. It's very, very strong. Next up, the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, who's elevated back up the tier list because of how good God Ki is right now. Very effective purple unit for God Ki. He's actually the best one of the only ones. And he has the lock-in mechanic that is good for assassinations, you guys, especially in mirror matches versus other God Ki, where you're fighting the green LF Vegeta, the green Beerus, or against Regen when you match up against the green Buhan. Those are all situations where this Vegeta can just usually come in and one combo. Now, he has a little bit more difficulty doing that against the LF Zenkai Beerus and the LF Vegeta, because their defenses are really, really strong. But again, if used properly, you can still lock them in Rising Rush, lock them in Blue Card, lock them in and use the ultimate arts, and you can still generally get a good advantage over those characters also. So again, very effective, but you have to exploit his kit. You save him on the sidelines, you use the lock-in during mid-combo where he will refill his hand automatically with another red card, continue out the combo, and they can't do anything about it. You have to use that situation to your advantage, and under those circumstances, with the God Key team being as good as it is, that is why Vegeta is right here. Next up, Tapion, who is an interesting character. He's got extremely effective ways to contain your enemy and prevent them from using like blue and green cards and main ability. However, he doesn't really do a lot of damage on his own. He's almost just kind of more effective as that debuff character. Now he can still do reasonably good damage, again, especially because they changed how the slice damage works. But again, it's just nowhere near comparable compared to the future Trunks, the purple one that transforms. So again, a little bit less of a damage character, but good support for the movies team with his abilities. He's pretty much only locked down to being able to be used on that team, however. He doesn't fit in anywhere else, really. It's kind of like the next character we're about to talk about. Bojack. Bojack has the best counter swap-in mechanic in the game. It's just the best. His is more functional and just way better than any other characters in the game. It does damage the person that you're swapping in on your own team a little bit, 20%, but generally that's less damage than what they would take anyway if you had left them in to be comboed or swapped to another character, and that character would get beat up a little bit. So again, the fact that it hurts your own character really is not that big of a deal at all, especially because it cannot kill your character. No matter what, it'll leave them at 1 health, and it works against any card type in the game. Blue, green, yellow, ultimate arts, anything. It works against all cards. The only thing it does not work against is Rising Rush, and of course like tap attacks and stuff, but those those don't really combo into a situation where you can cover change anyway. So again, Rising Rush is the only thing that will beat out Bojack's cover change. He's got a very linear kit based around doing lots and lots of strike damage, but he does have a very convenient heal. It's an auto heal that you can't control, but it is built into his kit, and if you exploit that, throw him into the battle early, let him take some damage, he will recover out of that. And again, that's something that is very, very good about Bojack. Green card increases his card draw speed, increases his damage output. Main ability gives him key back, and then gives him more red cards, and then you can just keep on comboing. Bojack, again, is all about the cover swap, the damage output. That's really why he's so dang good, and his effectiveness on the movies team with that yellow Gohan make him a very, very good, very successful character that is good to use. Very relevant team, you guys. Even though it's been out for a little bit comparatively speaking, it's still very good. One of the top teams in the meta. Next up, the LF Gohan Super Saiyan 2. He is dropped down a little bit just because the Son family team is not quite as effective. Even with the addition of Super Saiyan 4 Goku, Son family is just not quite as up to date as some of the other teams. However, this Gohan here is still one of the best characters in the game, capable of doing obscene amounts of damage. He kind of competes for the LF Namek Goku as the character that you want last alive, though, and that causes a little bit of dysfunction in terms of that team build. Like, you don't want two characters that are the most effective when they're the last characters left alive, because only one of them can be the last character left alive. However, he's still an extremely good character that, similarly to Rose, can negate his type disadvantage situations, has a very powerful ultimate arts, and other than that, just kind of does lots of blast damage. He does have a cover damage reduction when he swaps in mid-combo, but yeah, just kind of a damage dealing, very, very good anchor character, last character left alive. Next up, the final form Full Power Frieza, one of the best defensive characters in the game, also capable of doing very good damage, a better blast than strike, very good blue card damage, has a very interesting and exploitable green card. It's one of the ones that'll only combo into blue, but if you don't have a blue card and you use it, you can kind of like try and bait out the enemy after you get out of using it, because they'll always have their Vanish meter restored. So that, that hurts its effectiveness a little bit, but you can use that and try and play it to your advantage. And again, just very, very high defense. So you can cover most any Rising Rush in the game except for like Hit, because Hit nullifies Endurance on every single thing that he does. Hit could breathe and Endurance would be nullified. But outside of that, this Frieza can sub in front of any Rising Rush in the game and come out alive thanks to the Endurance passive. Again, just Lineage of Evil is one of the more effective teams in the game, still one of the best, and this Frieza is your best defensive option and your best anti-purple option. Lots of powerful purple units in the game across movies, fusions, God Key, and GT with Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So this Frieza is just increasingly useful and staying a very good, effective character. Next up here we have Zenkai, Broly, and Goku. Two other characters that were completely unusable before the Zenkai system. Again, have not heard or seen any activity of a full Zenkai 7 fully soul boosted unit, but just by reading their passives and their synergies and what Zenkai does for them, and seeing what they can do at Zenkai 1, that earns them a spot back up here on the tier list. Whenever Super Saiyan Bardock gets a Zenkai, the Holy Trinity team is going to start to be absolutely ridiculous again. I can't wait to see that meta come back around full circle. But yeah, not too much to say about these units, seeing as how they are some of the oldest units in the game, and the Zenkai system is pretty straightforward. You just waste a lot of time and resources, and you get benefits from it out of really old characters. So again, they are extremely effective, but God, it takes a huge investment to get them where they need to be. Next up in S, Buhan, still an extremely effective character. He's got heals on his shield, he's got damage output out the butthole, he can use his main ability to get some really nice permanent buffs, and some other really long-lasting ones that help him out a lot. And again, it's just very, very high damage and really pretty good defense also character. Your go-to green unit for regeneration and bolstered effectiveness again. It's better now that you got the baby, because his heals on his shield will be even more effective. So again, regeneration team is maybe a little bit of an underdog team comparatively speaking, but now that baby's in the team, it's really interesting what you can do based with that healing buff. So I think regeneration is kind of coming back into a place where it's pretty much competitive with most of the other teams in the game, which is a good thing to see, honestly. And I like how mostly bad guys end up on this team. So, other than Piccolo and other assorted, various characters like Nail and Namekians and stuff. But outside of that, I do like the regeneration team, and Buhan is very, very effective. Whis is for your God Key teams that don't use the LF Vegeta and the Rosé. Instead, you'd run the Zenkai Beerus, or the LF Beerus, whichever you want to call him now, and you'd run this Whis instead of Rose. So this Whis is extremely good support unit, one of the best EX units in the game. EX Nail, I think, deserves a spot up here too. Yep, he's up here also. That's good. I haven't actually fully looked through this yet, but yeah, one of the best EX units in the game. He's got a really good heal, exploitable extra green cards that he brings to battle. He fits onto God Key, which is again one of the best teams in the game. And I don't know, man, his stats generally rival, some mid-tier to mid-high tier Sparkings. So he's really good, man. Again, for an EX unit, he's fully competitive with other Sparkings, and his kit provides some really interesting options and good damage buffs, especially to Beerus. So definitely deserves the spot right here. Perfect Cell is next. One of the oldest units that's held his value for the longest, right there with the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan that dropped on the same banner. This Perfect Cell, again, we shouldn't really have to spend too much time on him, but just has a really effective kit, a really powerful ultimate arts technique, chance to faint, really, really good green card, good damage output, that instant transmission save, which has got some Rising Rush protection, and he counters purple, which again is a very, very dangerous color in this game. And regeneration is a pretty good unit. He heals over time as well. You don't even have to do anything, and he just heals, which if baby's main is active, is going to be noticeable little chunks of health that he just starts restoring over time. So again, extremely good unit. He's been out for quite a long time. Next up, the Gogeta from the DBS Broly movie, who transforms. Very, very defensive unit. Again, part of the Fusions team, which has Vegito, one of the best characters in the game, on it. And as well, just a very highly defensive team in general. It's a very hard team to kill. However, Fusions is falling off again, as we've mentioned a little bit, because they don't have any new juice being pumped into them to keep them super competitive. But just because of how good all the units are that are on it, especially with the 14-star red Vegito for free, the Vegito, possible usage of Super 17, just a very, very tanky team, and it's a very good team that's held its relevance for a long time. Again, these characters are only falling down a little bit because there are lots of other good characters on newer, slightly more relevant teams, you guys. But Gogeta here is still an exceptional unit. Red Vegito right with him for the same reasons. Hyper defensive, does feature the 10-second lock-in, counters a lot of very powerful yellow units that you see, like the Frieza. It doesn't counter the Frieza quite as well, but he still is one of your best options for dealing with this Frieza. Just Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta will kill this Frieza just so fast. But anyway, Vegito deals with the yellow units very well, especially this Gohan. It's like a counter lock-in to the Gohan's lock. You can bring Vegito out, lock the Gohan in, try and kill him, and prevent yourself from being locked in. So there's good counterplay that you can use there. But yeah, this character has been out for a while. Free 14 stars made him extremely tanky. Very good Z buffs that he gives out to defenses and to Vegito's strike damage. And again, good character all around. Zamasu increasing in his position because of his conjunctive heal with the baby and how hard it is to kill him. His whole team heal is extremely that much more effective now because of baby being out, and his defensiveness is also just very good. His damage output, however, not quite there, but just for how good of a defensive unit and a team healer on a team now that just has absurd levels of healing, that's why his value has increased a little bit recently. Hit is next. He's the best assassin character in the game, and he works alone. He doesn't really have a very good team other than like some yellow, blue format setups, or just throwing him into whatever team just to bring him. But he's just got the best damage kit out of any other character in the game. It's just his severe lack of team placement that holds him back and kind of is keeping him from being much higher on the list, you guys, as well. He cannot take hits. He will die extremely fast to almost any character in the game, other than, certain purple units that can't really hurt him that badly. But even most of them can honestly kill hit. But his damage output is again flat out absurd. Built-in critical buffs, built-in card draw speed, none of which can be removed. His ultimate arts technique does an absurd level of damage. I wonder if he'll get a Zenkai one day and how strong he'll be. It's interesting, because it seems like characters that are getting Zenkai are ultimate arts users. So we'll have to see how that goes, you guys. Next up, GT Goku. Very effective bench unit for either Son family or for the new GT tag. He as well is actually pretty functional in battle. He does really good amounts of damage, has consistent buffs that work very nicely with his kit, a relatively powerful ultimate arts technique, but not as good of an option as Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. He's just kind of a much more effective bench unit. Again, if you have him over 6 stars, or however many stars to unlock that now, you get the good Son family buffs also. So very, very good GT unit on an up-and-coming team. Same thing with this Goku right here. Early game, he does really good blast damage. He can hurt most anyone. And he's got a kit that's based around helping him have cheaper blast cards, a good main ability that works in conjunction with all his kit. However, late game, he's not a very good unit. And I would say that, I don't know, I'd say Super 17 is actually probably a little bit better. Maybe not, but they're so close that it's really debatable. But again, GT is an up-and-coming team. He also functions on like Saiyans, Trinity, some kind of Son family builds, maybe. But there's other Gokus that are probably better for Son family. I don't know though, you guys. Just very effective overall as a unit, and better the more stars you get on him too. And man, I've been pulling a lot of him recently. Next up here, we have the purple transforming cooler, who's right under his brother, directly under his brother. This cooler could probably end up, or be deserved to be up here in the S+, but S is very, very effective character. One of the highest raw defense characters in the entire game, you guys. There's not too many that can take hits as well as this cooler. He's got a really strong kit, good main ability. He's got blast armor after he transforms, good special move damage, and again, just defense. Just really good defense. He fits on that team of Lineage of Evil very, very well, and gets nice buffs from the other Final Form cooler. So again, the synergy on that team is really top tier, and this character is just really hard to kill and tough to deal with. I mean, Rising Rush usually can get rid of him relatively easily, but again, he's still extremely difficult to deal with. And his second main ability heals him and gives back a lot of his health also. So that is to be considered as well. It's very, very good self-contained kit character on a very effective team. Next up, Super 17. Works across the GT team now, especially if he's 6 stars or higher. And he works on fusions pretty effectively also, and androids. So he's on 3 pretty relevant teams, you guys, especially the first 2 that I mentioned. Androids starting to fall off a little bit, but they're still pretty good also, just not quite as top tier as when they were a little bit fresher. But anyways, he is a very, very good defensive unit, has one of the most obnoxious ultimate arts techniques in the game, which paralyzes your entire team, or your entire enemy's team if you're the one using him. And his green card, it heals him, so it'll get buffs from the baby, and it restores his ki while hurting your enemy's ki. He's pretty much immune to any type of yellow card or blue card action from the green card or on his cover change mechanic, except for melee blue cards like Gogeta, the transforming Gogeta for example, will still hit him. But any energy based beam attack or orb energies, he will just suck them right up and take your ki away and add to his health. So again, he does lack a little bit of damage. He does start to build damage if you use him to KO characters. Like if you use the Super 17 and get the last hit and kill that, that character, he starts to stack some permanent damage buffs. So that is nice, but in the beginning of the fight, it's more defense than offense, clearly. LF Super Saiyan 3 Goku next. Not the most impressive damage dealer early on in the fight, but has an absurdly strong ultimate arts technique, and towards the end of the fight starts doing a really good yellow card damage. He can use his green a lot like Final Form Full Power Frieza, but it only counters yellow cards. The Frieza will counter blue cards and red cards also, but unfortunately, and Tap Blasts it'll counter. But the Goku here will only work against yellow cards, and he can only combo it into blue cards. It's a little bit harder to use, but it does destroy your enemy's cards. That's pretty useful also. And again, he does have the instant transmission on his cover change. Fits extremely well on Son family, because there's not too many powerful green units that really belong on that team. So he takes that spot pretty nicely. And I actually really like this unit. Some other people have argued against him, but I will defend him. I think he is quite nice. Not nearly as nice as the LF Green Vegeta, but he's still a pretty dang decent card, and not the worst LF in the game, debatably. There might be some contention there, but, I don't know. We'll see. Next up, you have the Green Golden Frieza. Extremely good burst damage unit. Most effective early on in the fight, and the later portions of the fight, once his buffs wear off, he can be kind of more of a liability, but he can still be functional even after all his buffs are gone. His ultimate arts damage drops off almost entirely though. That is something you want to be wary about. You want to use that relatively early on while his buffs are still active, but in comboing on the Lineage of Evil team, he has really good effective synergy with the blue Final Form cooler as well. He counters a lot of powerful blue units, and he does have a really good Z ability. If you give him 6 stars or higher, he's a double offense buffer for Frieza Force or Lineage of Evil. So very, very good bench, even when you're not bringing him to battle, but very effective in battle also. Next up here, we have the red Fusion 13. He's a movies unit, doesn't function very well on movies team. Functions best on androids, but androids falling off a little bit. Again, he is extremely good, and the androids team is still totally usable, so don't let me like try and sound like I'm throwing them in the mud too much. It's just, yeah, I don't know. He's very good. Very good counter change mechanics. His damage output is a little bit low, but you can use a green card to try and buff that up. He's got the chance to feint on his ultimate arts as well, which actually is a relatively good ultimate arts. And, I don't know, he's just kind of like, almost kind of like a watered down version of Bojack, but with an ultimate arts technique and a chance to feint. And that's kind of how I see him. His cover change is not quite as effective. It's the same one as what Vegito has, if you're wondering. Same cover change that Vegito has, which does combo into a blue, if you can pull that off. So there is that. Still, again, we're in the S tier. He's a very good character. Again, I know I sound like I'm being harsh on him, but that's just more because his team is losing relevance, not because this particular unit's not very good. He is extremely good. EX, oh, he's got the blast armor on his green card as well. Very similar again to Bojack in that comparison I made just a second ago. Next up, EX Nail. Extremely good purple unit for regeneration teams. He's kind of like Whis, but his buffs come after he dies. However, he does have the team heal on his green card and really good damage buffs. His Z ability is quite nice. So EX Nail is coming out of W, one of the best EX units in the game. I do not believe the new Shisami or the new Frieza or the new Rildo or GT Goku are on here. I don't think they are, but they probably do deserve placements on this list, you guys. I'm sorry. We'll have to just vocally place them because I do not see them on here. And they probably, honestly, all belong in A somewhere. So make sure that they're not in here. Nope, 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 nope. Okay, well, anyways, you guys, we'll get to them later. EX Beerus next functions very well if you have Zenkai Beerus and Whis, and you run the team of double Beerus Whis. Outside of that, there's probably nowhere else where you'd honestly run this Beerus, but in that specific combo, he functions at a really, really high tier. He does lots of blast damage, and he supports the other Beerus pretty well also. So there is that. That's another EX unit that's extremely good, worth mentioning. Definitely gets an honorable mention on the chart. Maybe the EX Rildo or Shisami or Goku might come into the tail end of S right here, you guys. I don't know. Again, I haven't had a chance to play with any of those four characters, so it's probably why they're not on here. Even the collaborator of the tier list with me didn't have anywhere to put them. So I don't know, you guys. They'll probably make their way on here though eventually one day. It's just there's a lot of characters in this game now at this point, y'all. Next up, the Goku from the movies. Spirit Bomb absorbed versus Fusion 13. Extremely defensive unit early on in the game. Relatively low offensive power early in the game. Has a green card that restores his Vanish and can block, you know, red and yellow cards, but won't block blues or Ultimate Arts or Rising Rush. He has that hyper damage output Ultimate Arts technique, you guys. That's one of the best sources of damage this guy makes. And like the longer you wait, the better it gets too. So just more and more damage ends up stacking onto his Ultimate Arts technique. And, you know, by then in the fight, he's doing pretty good levels of just yellow card damage and some red card damage also. Not as effective as many other characters. Like, I don't think I would run him over the LF Super Saiyan 3 Goku for Son family. But on the movies team, he's got some decent functionality as a green unit there. So that is an option, especially in LBR. Movies team was a really good team to use during LBR with all the 14-star synergy, and he was great in that situation also. Next up here, the red transforming Frieza. Obscenely good damage output, and he can heal before he transforms with green cards to help him just kind of soak up some damage and laugh his way out of it. He heals like 20 or 30% when he transforms to golden. It is a timed transformation, however. It does wear off after a certain amount of time, but while it's up, he does really, really good strike damage. Kind of a similar unit to the transforming blue Vegeta, but he doesn't have the blast armor. Like his green card does the same thing where it buffs his strike damage and changes all his yellow cards into red cards. He's got really good blue card damage, very similarly. But yeah, he's a really good red option for Lineage of Evil. If you have the Metal Cooler at like 7 stars or higher, that's a really good, it's a good competitive unit, but this Frieza does way better damage, and that would be more of a healing and tanking unit. So different roles they would fill. But Metal Cooler's still pretty good. I don't know where he is on this list. I see him, he's down in B. I don't know, that's potentially a little debatable. But this Frieza is really good, you guys. Deserves S tier. Finishing up S tier with the Kid Buu, who's got even more effectiveness now with, again, the Blue Baby, who'll buff his healing every time he combos. His ki restore is really bad, you guys. It can be hard for this Kid Buu to maintain enough ki to sustain like long combos or even like medium length combos, but he does a lot of damage. It's just, he doesn't take hits very well either. I would say he's like a little bit better version of the purple Super Buu without the debuffs, but instead he can just kind of heal himself, do a little bit more damage, and last in combat a little bit longer. His green card's pretty good also, potentially stacking what, like 1 to 3 damage buffs on him, and then lowering the enemy's ki also, so there is that, and he gets plenty of those green cards too. So just lots and lots of damage, a little bit of healing, more so now with Baby, and a very good Ultimate Arts technique also that does a lot of damage. Dropping down to A here next, the LF Goten. It's coming up as the lowest ranking LF character in the game. Probably just because Super Saiyan 4 Goku came and replaced him kind of on the Son family. That drops him down a little bit more, you guys. Now he's still an extremely good unit with tons and tons of damage and good synergy with Gohan and other Gokus and stuff, but again, I do agree that the Super Saiyan 4 Goku is a much more well-rounded unit who's better to use in most any situation. However, Gohan is a pretty good glass cannon. He does lots of damage. You just gotta make sure he doesn't get beat up too badly. And he will do, again, lots of damage for you, but I don't know. We'll just not debate this too heavily. We'll see how it goes. From here on out, you guys, we're already at like an hour into the video. I'm not going to really spend too much time on these units at all. I'm going to give them each a quick comment and go through it. I hope that doesn't bother you. Keep this video around an hour, but there's just so many units in the game, you guys. Now, we are at the A tier. A lot of these characters are still effective. They're still completely usable. It's just there are better options on newer and more relevant teams, or even on the team. They're just like a secondary choice or a bench unit on the team. But again, a lot of these units are still very good, capable of being competitive, doing lots of damage or taking lots of damage. It's just they're starting to fall off a little bit now. And starting off here, we have the Purple 17. He got buffed. That's made him much more effective. However, again, Android's team is not something you see super often, and he doesn't really have any placements outside of that. The yellow Vegeta is arguably a little bit more useful now that GT teams are running around. He buffs Saiyan's blast damage really nicely, and he's got a really good set of debuffs. You might actually kick him up to the bottom of S tier just because GT is out, but maybe not, you guys. I don't know. I have him on my bench there, but I haven't actually tried bringing him to battle yet. But he's really not that bad of a unit. He just, I don't know. He never really stood out or shined that much because he came out and GT didn't have a team for so long. And now that GT does kind of have a team, he's starting to get a little bit dated. Next up, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. Amazing yellow unit for your fusions teams, but that's probably a color that needs to be updated for that team with a little bit of a better unit. His ultimate arts gives a really high chance to faint. He's very defensive. His offenses are okay. His green card is pretty good as a stun, but again, he's just not overwhelmingly impressive. Next up, Green Mai functions on females in future. Just two teams that are competitive, but just not top tier. But again, this is A tier. There's nothing really wrong with these units. Her damage output's a little bit low. However, she makes up for it with good support and a team heal. Next up, Blue 13, pre-transformation or pre-fusion with the batteries. Does really good blast damage, has a good green card, has good special move damage. Kid is kind of linear. His main ability just buffs his damage and I think restores some ki. Again, just Android's team is not as functional as what it was. I'm sure it'll get updated at some point, and he might be back up in a more relevant state. Next up, EX Krillin. You most frequently will see him paired up with the Zenkai Goku and potentially the LF Namek Goku. And that's why you see his spot actually relatively high here, because with Zenkai Goku being out, some interestingly weird teams are available as options because of it, and Krillin is not that bad. Next up, Super Saiyan God Vegeta. He is not very impressive. He's a strike damage unit that doesn't do very much strike damage. I mean, you can use his main and buff that amount of damage, and it's reasonable. Again, this is A tier, nothing too terribly bad, but it's just not a very impressive unit in terms of his stats. His cover change is one of the best features about him, and you can combo into a blue card with it as well, but it's a good little combo interrupt. Next up, Ginyu Goku. Very, very good unit for Frieza Force. He actually is quite powerful. Another free 14-star unit means that he is almost competitive solely because of that. Free 14-star units are hard to turn away, you guys. Final form, Cooler Blue type next. Again, he's like a leader unit for your LOE teams, providing good damage support buffs. And if you have him at 6 stars or higher, or 7 stars now, he's pretty tanky as well. He's not as tanky as the purple one, nowhere near as tanky as the purple one, but he can take hits pretty well, and he's, again, still your default blue unit for Lineage of Evil. Next up, Transforming Green Gohan. He has the ability to negate his color disadvantage. He does really good blast damage, really good blue card damage, and his green card basically functions as like a reverse lockout. After he transforms, the green card will toss someone out, and they can't swap back in for like 15 seconds unless they're like using a team that, you know, has a way around that. So, very, very reasonably good unit. Just fits on Son family okay. Not as competitive as some other Son family units. Fits on Future pretty well. That's probably the best place to use him, honestly. Or hybrids also. EX Yellow Broly is next. Kind of a specific team you use him on with like hit on yellow, yellow, blue. But he's got like mini lock-ins and does extremely high amounts of damage. Actually a very, very good EX unit, you guys. Very good. Probably would be higher up the list if everyone had access to more of his stars, because he's until recently has not been around very often for people to pull. It's still relatively new also. Next up, more Gohans, the Legends Road one, who's a great support for hybrids. And the Ultimate Gohan, who's great on hybrids or Son family, but has recently kind of fallen to the wayside of other newer green options that have kind of replaced him a little bit. Rebrand next. Excellent choice for your females team. Females team is still pretty dang competitive, and she is the default leader for her females team. Next up, Kakunsa, again part of the same team. And then Rosie will be a little bit further down here, but they work really well as a trio on females, you guys. EX Zanya works with a special movies build where you use her, I guess, instead of the transforming Vegeta. She's got an interesting lock-in when she dies and some interesting synergies, and actually is capable of pretty good damage herself. Next up, this is EX Ginyu right here, but it functionally represents the entire Ginyu force since you generally run them together as a team. Birder is honestly probably the best of the Ginyu force, but let's just kind of stack them all right here, you guys. This is where they all go. Very hyper-competitive team of all EX units, you guys. You can use them at pretty much top-tier levels of play. Next up, Broly here, the red one, another 14-star free unit. He's usually more often than not a bench on movies teams, but he is functional on that team as a red unit for now until they get a much, much better red unit. And he deals with some of these yellow problem units pretty well still. Again, because of the 14 stars, he's still, you know, relatively competitive and has a reasonably good kit. A little built-in heal on his main, ultimate arts that can feint, you know, reasonably good damage, blast armor on the ultimate arts technique. Anyways, next up, Son family Yellow Goku. He basically gives out damage buffs while he's alive, and then dies and gives out more damage buffs. So he's a good supporting damage buffing unit. Works really well on Son family or, you know, Super Saiyan 1 or any type of Goku-based team. Again, Rosie, she goes with Ribrianne and Kakunsa. Rosie is the blast damage dealer. A little bit later on in the game, she gets her buffs. Kakunsa is the melee character who's good earlier in the fight. And Ribrianne is your defender with the 10-second lock-in and the ultimate arts technique. So they all complement each other very, very nicely, you guys. Next up, the old purple Broly. One of the best units in the game when he came out, if not the best, for quite a while. Led an entire meta with the Holy Trinity and stuff like that. Unfortunately, when he was originally out, the movies team wasn't really that good. I mean, it was okay, but it was more like purple, purple, red at the time. And yeah, now he's just kind of fallen off, unfortunately. He has to like take damage to get a lot of his damage buffs, and his stats are just not quite as competitive as some of the newer, more hyper-powerful units. So that is the curse of him coming out first. People were happy when we got him, when the movie came out, and kind of happy that Gogeta Blue didn't drop at the same time, you guys, because whenever Gogeta Blue does come out, he's going to be much more competitive for much longer than this Broly likely was. Unfortunate. I mean, he's still usable. It's just, you know, he's not super great, you guys. Nothing really stands out about him that's just really, really awesome. Bardock, Holy Trinity leader, buffer for all Super Saiyans. Everyone should be pretty familiar with what he does at this point. The red Vegeta was buffed fairly recently, was good on Vegeta family for a while, and okay on Holy Trinity, but was recently replaced on Vegeta family by Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. Oh, the B category here, you guys. I don't think this Turles, or I mean this Bardock, sorry, Turles, what? They all look alike, dang it. I don't think this Bardock belongs in B tier, you guys. Let's go ahead and take this Bardock and move him like right up here in A tier, because he's actually pretty dang good. He's just not really competitive with this Gohan on the movies team in any way. So I think that might be why initially Rosmir gave him kind of a lower ranking. But if you use him on certain Saiyans teams, he's actually not bad at all, you guys. He's a little bit of a mix between offense and defense. So take him, put him up here in A tier somewhere near the, you know, the upper end of A. Definitely better than, you know, some of these characters. Anyway, that's cool. Rildo next. Doesn't really fit on the GT team. Just got totally outdone by Red Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. He does have a relatively good kit and endurance killing capabilities and pretty decent damage output also. But doesn't have a Z ability that fits the team or any way to really fit in. So it's kind of more relegated to a dual color-based team, like the dual chromatic-based teams. This Frieza right here is not better than Final Form Cooler, even though they both share blast armor. He's a nuker with his blue card and doesn't really do too much good damage outside of that. His blast damage isn't terrible, but Final Form Cooler is better for Lineage of Evil, and even Raccoon is probably better for Frieza Force. Next up, Metal Cooler. I think that he should be a little higher, probably an A somewhere, not B. But yeah, healer and tanking unit for LOE. Got kind of replaced by this Frieza right here. But he's still effective, he's still usable. Purple Goku Black really only belongs on Future since he doesn't fit into God Key. Usable on Saiyans, but no real reason to use him there. And he's good at tanking a little bit. If he gets hit hard enough, though, it can be really dangerous for him. So that's why he's not... He's kind of like... He takes time to get rolling. He needs to take some damage to build his buffs, which don't last too long. He can get permanent buffs from his green cards and then start healing and heal with his main. But all of it kind of takes time to get rolling. And by the time it does get rolling, he might already be dead. I don't know, you guys. If you use him effectively, more power to you. But he's not super effective. This Vegeta is likely to get a Zenkai Awakening soon. So we'll probably be moving up the charts soon to a higher spot. So just keep that in mind, you guys. I'm just going to really speed through this now at this point, you guys. We got the red Android 18 and the green. She's okay on females, actually. She's pretty deadly there. On androids, the Fusion 13 is way better. Super 17 is better than this guy right here. However, he's not terrible. He does reasonably good damage. It's just, again, better options on his own team. Nappa, it's kind of a weird character. Kind of like a gimmicky character, almost like the baseball Yamcha, but potentially fits in with like kids' characters and Vegeta a little bit better. But I don't know. A little bit of a wonky character. EX Gohan doesn't fit in quite as well as EX Krillin because Zenkai Goku needs a Krillin, or at least for some of his buffs. The Gohan's still fairly effective though, decent to use. The Android 15 is next. He's one of the worst sparking androids. Even I think the EX Android 17 and 18 are probably better, but he's a support unit, kind of. Nowhere near as like Baby should be the model of good support units, and he's not really quite as good. And just, again, better units to use on his own team. He is usable though, you guys. He's not completely useless. Green Broly next. I think the Spirit Bomb absorbed Goku is probably better. However, the Broly, he's not terrible. He's functional, you guys. He's got a nice little cover change, and the green shield chains well with his blue cards, and he gets a reasonable amount of both green and blue cards. So I don't know, I actually kind of like the green Broly and his animations for his attacks on his cards, at least his red card. But yeah, I don't know, it's just he's not, I can understand why he's down here just because he's not as effective, but I don't know, I just kind of like him. Next up, Yellow Future Gohan, just kind of falling off a little bit, you guys. He's good on Future. He's okay on Hybrids. He's okay on Family, I guess. But just, again, better options further up the list. Yellow Bojack actually is reasonable for blast damage against Saiyans, especially when he's the last character left alive, but he doesn't really fit the meta structure for movies. And there's no way he's better than the Yellow Gohan. So that's why he's down here. Kaba struggles because there's no unified Universe 6 team. He's just kind of like a Vegeta supporter. And there's the green LF Vegeta, who's infinitely better. So there's just no real way to put Kaba anywhere on a good team right now. Same thing for this yellow Goku. No good teams for him. He's got a bad Z ability that buffs only colors, so that kind of hurts his ability to squeeze into any teams. This purple Super Saiyan 3 Goku is still an amazing Z ability bench buff for any strike-based Saiyan team. He is, however, not really competitive in the stats department, and he does low defenses and he dies very quickly. Blue Slug was just recently replaced by Baby, and that's likely why he's fallen so far down here. It's a very linear kit based around just strike damage and not much else. The LR Piccolo, arguably better than he's placed. However, because he is yellow and Cell is yellow, he always loses out to Cell over bringing him to battle. And that's really what hurt him as Regen's first option for a support character that isn't Baby. So, that again, the color competition here is what initially killed this character on release for use on Regen teams. I mean, he's still usable if you don't have Cell even as an option, but I don't know if I'd run that team that way with that setup. Chilled is pretty much only a bench buff on Lineage of Evil. He does buff health and health restoration, which is a great buff for the team to have. You will never ever ever use him over the transforming purple cooler, but again, he's got a really, really good bench Z ability. Green 16. The androids aren't super relevant right now, and Super 17 and 14 are both better. However, his defensive power is extremely high, but that's all that he brings to the table is defense and self-destruct. Next, going down the list, no Universe 6 team. Bench on Frieza Force or Ginyu Force, but you don't usually end up bringing him. Krillin never had a team to go on, but it'd be nice if he maybe got a Zenkai even though he doesn't have an ultimate arts technique, but just has no team really at all. The EX purple one is better. This guy, Legends Road as a team by itself is not super great. His green card is kind of wonky with its instant transmission and how it works and how enemies can still vanish and exploit their way out of it.
And yeah, just no real team to use him on. Bench on God Key only for health and crit buff. Almost guaranteed you want him on the bench, but he's just terrible in battle. Just great bench unit, nothing else. Buffed damage output is actually fairly competitive in terms of damage, but little to no survivability and low functionality on any type of competitive teams like Frieza Force and Saiyans. Don't really want to use him. Also, non-really competitive. I mean, again, these units in C are still semi-usable. It's just we're getting kind of far down here to the point where they're really not that competitive. Piccolo has great heal, great defense. Boo has great heal, great defense, and like a mini lock-in that can be exploited, but just not very good. Same thing with the blue Trunks. He's on not very good teams, and he does a lot of blast damage. He's a reasonable character for dealing blast damage. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm just shitting on all of these characters. It's just we've gone on here for like an hour and 20 minutes. This is the final tier list for the year, you guys. We're covering everybody, but dang, it takes a long time to get through. Saiyaman 2. Females team has better options with Kakunsa, Ribrianne, and Rosie. So you won't often run her, but she's got good anti-lineage of evil damage, I do believe. So that is an option. It's just these units are kind of dated to the point where they're not really hyper competitive anymore. This Frieza, bad Z ability, and is totally outclassed by the full power final form version of the same Frieza. Purple Turles is a purple-red unit, movies unit, and got buffed, but still not really that hyper great. Super Boo actually has a really good set of debuffs and reasonable damage output. He just dies really easily, you guys. EX Nail, honestly, the better option. Now, if you're running like an all Boo version of Regen, like just kind of for kicks, he does fit into that pretty well. But you definitely want some stars on him to add some stats and some Z ability to make him a little bit more useful and die a little bit less. Going down to D next. Red Gogeta is just bench on fusions, but sometimes I don't even bring him for bench when I bring Super 17. So I'll have a green unit that I can actually use. The Super Saiyan 1 Gotenks is the better mandatory bench for fusions. So yeah, just very, very dated. Kaioken Goku, also very dated. Damage output is not really there, despite having relatively high strike damage stat. Blue Spirit Bomb Goku, he's terrible. I don't even, how is he even this high? He should be down in F. There must be something I'm missing here. The red Super Saiyan 3 Goku was never really that good. He's mostly like an early game burst damage unit, but didn't really have any teams or metas to fit into, like right when he came out almost even. Green Bardock, which is very old, very dated, but was the first character to feature the 10-second lock-in. If he got updated in some way, he probably would be actually functional again. Hopefully he gets one of the balance adjustments one day. Yellow Videl is not even as good as the purple EX Videl, who's not pictured on the chart, but she would be like probably up here in A somewhere. Rosie, again, Rosie, rebrand Kakunsa is the way to go for females. Same thing kind of for this android right here. She doesn't fit onto androids very well. She doesn't really fit into females very well. Ribrianne is much, much better. But she does have good built-in damage to hybrid Saiyans. There is that. This one-hand Spirit Bomb Goku is another like purple red, or I guess now he buffs Saiyans since they changed him a little bit, right? Defensively? I don't actually remember. Or movies maybe, but just very, very dated unit. It takes time to build up his blue card before it functions at full capacity. It's not very good. Yellow Trunks dies very, very quickly, glass cannon, and is not really competitive in today's day and age, but is a good bench for any team with hybrids on it. IT Goku is desperately in need of a stats update. His kit is actually really good, but his stats for damage are non-existent. He cannot hurt anyone. Blue Kamikolo was an anti-androids unit when he first came out, but doesn't fit on Regen. He loses out to both Slug and now especially Baby. Green Cooler loses out to every other version of Cooler in the game. He can be a reasonable bench for movies teams, but is not functional on Lineage of Evil compared to the Green Golden Frieza, and is not functional on movies compared to Spirit Bomb Absorb Goku or even the Green Broly. So just kind of relegated to bench only. The Bunny Bulma is reasonably good on a female's team, mostly support, kind of an interestingly awkward character, but she's not terrible. Bench unit for Son family right here, or I guess maybe hybrids, but I think Son family, right? I don't know. Is it Son family in females or Son family in hybrids? I forget. It's been that long since I've looked at her card and her abilities, you guys. But it was broken the first few months the game was out, and ever since has been nothing but really a bench unit. Janemba has been replaced. He was fun to use, so fun to use when he first came out, but pretty much any purple regen unit is going to be better than Janemba, except for the EX Demon King Piccolo. He is still better than EX Demon King Piccolo, but all the other purple regen units we covered are better. Green Vegeta pretty much has no damage output whatsoever, but has a relatively good kit, and a pretty good green card. It's like the Gohan's green card, but on a character that's nowhere near as good as Gohan. And it's not quite as good because it doesn't give ki back, I don't think. Berserk Kale, next. If a Universe 6 team ever comes together, Kale and Caulifla will probably go up in value. But right now, they just don't really offer much of anything to any team in particular that's competitive. It's unfortunate. F. Bench unit for fusion teams, and that's it. Bench unit for yellow teams, and that's it. I mean, he did get a buff, and it made him a little bit better and functional-ish, but still not so much. Bench unit for purple and red teams or characters. Maybe functional one day, kind of a reasonable support character, but he would need a balance update. Pycon, dated. This Trunks needs to be updated. It's non-competitive. This Legends Road Trunks could be competitive, I guess, but not really. His stats are just kind of outdated. He needs an update as well. And some of the Legends Road characters you can't even get fully soul boosted until their event returns, which also hurts them because they're not even as good in PvE as some other color characters. Or Rush Mode. This Gotenks, same story, just not very good for Legends Road or Fusions. He can stall the battle out a little bit, but he's not going to really do you any type of solid work. Yellow Demon King Piccolo has been replaced by Cell. He is in no way competitive with Cell. This character right here, Yellow Android 18, is another character that I heard was getting a Zenkai relatively soon, so we'll withhold any future judgment on her as well. That could change her very similarly as it did the other Zenkai characters. This Yamcha was always like a joke troll character. Goten is a bench for hybrids only. Majin Vegeta was dead on arrival due to the fact that he debuffs your own team and causes your own team to take more damage, and that's extremely unfortunate. He actually does a pretty good amount of damage himself, but that buff really killed him right on arrival, even though he's a pretty dang cool card. You guys are sad. This Gohan is desperately in need of an update as well. He's non-competitive. This Trunks, I heard, is I heard he is the next Zenkai unit. I actually made a video that included a whole talk about that. So, yeah, you guys, this Trunks very well could be the next Zenkai unit, in which case he probably will be hyper-competitive and right back up to the top of the list with some of the other Zenkai units. I wouldn't be surprised if this Gohan right here didn't get a Zenkai. Which I hope I didn't call him Gohan, I called him Trunks. But yeah. This Gohan, I'm sorry, I'm getting tired, you guys, now at this point. But this Gohan, I wouldn't be surprised if he also got a Zenkai, but right now he's non-competitive. Same for him, because he's gotten Ultimate Arts too, this Red Cell. Very likely he'll get Zenkai one day soon-ish, maybe, soon-ish. I don't know exactly when. But yeah, until then, non-competitive. The blue Bulma is nowhere near as good as the EX version of this same Bulma, who would probably be up here in B or C, maybe, yeah, probably B somewhere. But yeah, she's not competitive with her own EX version. dated, and damage output is really almost non-existent. No teams for him. No real teams for her either. Boosted Son family damage, but not too useful outside of that. And that by itself is not very useful. Needs an update, even though we can now, 5 or 6, I think 5-star him or 6-star him. I forget. I just did it too yesterday. I should remember. But yeah, still just kind of non-competitive and no teams for him. Hercule does work well in conjunction with LF Namek Goku, so that he can spam out that really broken blue card. Outside of that, Hercule was never competitive. It's really just the fact that he brings more blue cards, and his Z ability lowers the cost of blue cards that makes him any type of interesting in any way. So there is that. Special cheat, a special cheap team that you can run him on. Dabura has like arguably one of the worst main abilities in the game. It does like literally nothing, and he's just non-competitive in any way. Wait, why is the Great Saiyaman all the way down here in F? I guess because Son family now has Super Saiyan 4 Goku, so maybe that's like a recent development, and that makes him non-competitive, but he's not that bad, you guys. I don't think these characters are like listed in any type of specific order, but I would definitely not say that the Saiyaman is the worst character in the game. There's no way that that's possible. Actually, Saiyaman probably deserves to be, honestly, in like B tier somewhere, like right around where this Chilled is or something. Yeah, I would put Saiyaman up here. So ignore this right here. I know some people are gonna see this picture and not watch this entire like hour-and-a-half long video, and they're gonna be like, "What the hell? Saiyaman's not the worst character in the game, you idiot." And I'm gonna be like, "Oh, you didn't watch the video," because he's definitely not the worst character in the game, you guys. Anyway, we covered it all. We covered it all, you guys. I cannot do team builds in association with these tier lists anymore because the videos would just be way too dang long. We're almost at an hour-and-a-half, you guys. If you happen to stick around for all the material we discussed, I appreciate you for watching this whole video, you guys. Hopefully, it was entertaining. I know I wasn't super entertaining, not full of jokes, but I kind of wanted to stay on target to get through all of this information, you guys. Hopefully, it was informational for you. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, or your own opinions, of course, leave them down below, whether you agree with me or disagree. It doesn't bother me. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing so I can see you again on future videos. Did I say like the video too, you guys? I don't know. I've been talking, again, for too long, you guys. That's about it. I do hope you guys have amazing holidays. Merry Christmas to you guys if you celebrate that. And yeah, again, last tier list for 2019. Let me know your thoughts down below, you guys. Plenty more videos and content to come before 2019 ends and well into 2020, you guys. So I do hope I'll see you again very soon. It's Nasdorachi. Peace out, you guys. I'm gonna get out of here. Later on.